Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Thursday, August 16th meeting of the Blackstone-Millville Regional School District School Committee. I would invite you all to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and afterwards please remain standing. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we could please stand for a moment of silence for Mr. Anthony Neary, the first principal of the new junior-senior high school when it opened up many years ago, for Ms. Joanne McGahan, who was an elementary teacher for 44 years and president of the Teachers Association for over 25 years, and Marilyn Charkins, a first grade teacher at JFK. Our heart goes out to their families as they deal with the loss of their loved ones. Introduction of members. We'll start on your side, Sarah.
Sarah Williams, Blackstone.
Karen Vernon, Millville.
Jack Keefe, Blackstone.
Bethany Dunton, Blackstone.
Tammy Lemieux, Blackstone.
Tara Larkin, Millville.
Erin Binaco, Millville.
Jane Reggio, Millville.
Jason DeFalco, Superintendent.
At this point, I'd invite any members of the public who would like to make any comments to the board. Okay. Seeing none. Moving on to warrants and minutes of the July 9th meeting. I would entertain a motion to approve consent agenda A of the minutes and the warrants.
So moved.
Because some of us weren't here for the...
Some were not here July 9th.
Make a motion to split consent agenda A.
Okay. All those in favor of splitting, since it was a motion, say aye.
Aye.
So payroll. I'll take a motion to, moved by Erin.
Second.
There's been a motion to approve the payroll warrants, and payable warrants. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I'll take a motion for the minutes of the July 9th meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Jack.
Second.
Second by Bethany. It's been moved by Jack, seconded by Bethany to approve the school committee minutes of the July 9th meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstention?
Abstain.
Tammy.
Erin and Tammy. Okay. Next up is school committee report, and I just wanted to ask for people's indulgence as we plan this upcoming year for the school committee with a new superintendent. We are looking at a variety of different ways to serve the district as the school committee. We had a retreat last week, or a week and a half ago, I guess. I'm not sure anymore. But to talk about goal setting as a group, as a committee, goal setting for the district, strategic planning for the district, and using our subcommittees more so than we have used them in the past, more efficiently, developing protocols. You all should have received a letter from me today with some of the feedback that Dorothy Presser from MASC gave us on our first workshop to think about for our second one. So that next workshop is scheduled for Tuesday the 11th at 4:30, and we'll continue those discussions. And for September, we have scheduled school committee meetings on Wednesday the 5th at 6 p.m. And we currently have one scheduled for Wednesday the 19th at 6 p.m., but that is in conflict with the open house for parents at the high school. So people would like to entertain perhaps moving that to 7 p.m. and holding that at the high school. Would that work for folks?
Oh, yeah. No, not for me.
Not
but
for you.
that's okay.
Everyone else? Okay. So we will change that to keep it Wednesday the 19th, but 7 p.m. But that school committee meeting will be at the high school media. Are they using the media lab that night? Do they usually?
They usually don't. It's just the cafeteria unless something changes.
All right,
We can check
so
with-
hopefully immediately.
Yeah, I'll check on that.
And then we have a September 26th joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen from both Blackstone and Millville. And that's at 6 p.m. here at the middle school. So that takes us through September. But one of the things we will do at our workshop on the 11th is determine what our meeting schedule will look like for the upcoming year. So I apologize to those people who like to get our meetings on their calendar in advance for their TV viewing pleasure, but we will get it to you as soon as we can. Report of the superintendent.
Great, thanks, Ms. Reggio. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good to see everyone. It has been a very busy month since the last time we met, and we've got quite a few items to discuss this evening. The first item in your packet is regarding my entry plan. And so before we walk through this, I want to outline what this document is and what it isn't, just to make sure that we're all on the same page with that. So the entry plan itself is not, in fact, the strategy or the strategic plan that's going to help improve the school district. In fact, what it is the work that comes before that. So the entry plan are all the steps that we are going to take to help get us to the point where we are ready to develop a district improvement strategy. And then, of course, the blueprint or action plan that will then follow that with the appropriate goals. And so that being said, I do want to underscore the importance of us setting a set of goals for this academic year, which we will have an opportunity to do, of course. But just wanted to put that information right out front so that, that everyone understands that this is really the outline for how we will eventually get to the point where we're developing a strategy and improvement plan for the district. And so the first part of the entry plan really outlines the why, the how, and the what of the plan. And so it really opens with a sense of purpose behind why we need an entry plan framed out the way that this particular one is. The how, which is in fact the process that will be followed in order to collect all the information that we need to be prepared to develop an improvement strategy. And then the what. And the what is essentially the focus of the plan itself in terms of those key guiding questions or anchor questions that I'll be asking throughout this process. And I have to say, I think to the credit of the committee, really getting far ahead in the superintendent search process and making a decision in February actually has allowed for not only a smooth transition for my entry into BMR, but also has really allowed this plan itself to be much more accelerated than many of our other communities that were also searching for and selected new superintendents. Having had an opportunity to meet with new superintendents from across the Commonwealth just last Friday, BMR, we are in a very good position in terms of the entry work that's been done. And the transition from the end of February to July 1st, I think was so thorough that when July 1st rolled around, I was actually able to just start working. There wasn't a lot of things to, kind of quote unquote figure out. I mean, you're always learning new things every day, but was really able to come in and just start getting to work. And so one of the pieces that I'm very much looking forward to in this process is the actual timeline itself, because a lot of the work has been done up front, which really allows the time for myself and my leadership team to actually unpack the information that we're going to collect. So that's some really good news. Just before the actual process itself is outlined, I included a piece about the district's core values. I don't think it's a secret to anybody how important these are to me as superintendent, because community, achievement, respect, civility, those need to be the compass in which we are following to help us with our decision making, and how we prioritize the items of importance to us as a district. And so with that, there are a couple of key pieces that I'm really working to anchor within those core values. They're my own personal core values, but I think they're pieces that really square well with the 4 core values of the district: equity and social justice, student thinking and planning, and integrity. I mean, those are major pieces that really help to guide my own decision making as well. And so, as we are going through this entry process and as we start to develop our strategy for district improvement, I just want to share up front that those values are going to very much have a very strong emphasis in that plan. And so with that, we then segue into essentially a 4-step process. The first one is really about data collection. Now, July through October is listed here as a timeline, but quite frankly, we could have put February through October because that process started long before July 1st rolled around. And so while July is listed, I can share with you the individuals that are listed here in terms of the conversations and discussions that I have had or want to have, and some of that data collection with our different stakeholders has already happened, and that information's already been collected. However, having said that, I very much look forward to, in particular, getting to sit down with our teachers and with our kids. And so while I've had an opportunity to speak with some of our teachers more informally and some of our students as recent as today at band camp, which just totally made my day. I get to meet the kids that are making all that sound outside my office, which has just been awesome. And I do want to share one little aside on that. I said to one of the students in the 95-degree heat as they're carrying these huge instruments, what keeps you coming back to do this? You guys are out here 8+ hours a day, and that's just this week, weekends, nights. And you talk about our core values. This youngster said, oh, it's my friends, it's these people. Mm-hmm. When I'm tired, they cheer me on. When I feel like, I want to quit, they convince me to stay. They help me be better. They help me stick with it. And I, got a little choked up, and I thought, this solidifies exactly our core values and exactly what we are trying to do across the district, including the adults. I would say most importantly the adults, because we are in fact modeling this behavior for our youth. So just a small aside with that. But I'm looking forward to much more in-depth conversations with our kids and staff as the school year unfolds. So from there, we're going to segue into kind of another piece of this data collection, which is really about getting deeper from what we uncover from our conversations. And so I will be devising a survey, an online survey to send out to our school community. And I think that's important because what we will do as a leadership team is really identify the feedback and kind of compartmentalize the feedback and have a so what, now what conversation. What do we need to learn more about based on what our different stakeholders have shared? And so, I have found that sometimes you can get a little bit more feedback when it's through a survey and it's, kind of people have time to sit and process and think, and they can respond, via a link or something online versus a one-on-one conversation. And so we'll be following up those conversations with a deeper dive into a survey that has some key kind of clarifying questions that we'll be looking to answer from the community. From there, we will do a very thorough review of our documents, such as the existing strategic plans, school handbooks, school improvement plans, all of our academic data, our non-academic data, collective bargaining agreements, emergency plans, budget documents. I will tell you 95% of these documents have already been reviewed. So we're in very good shape as far as that piece goes. But the important part of this is we have to take this type of more formal feedback, and we have to really marry it with the informal, the kind of anecdotal, this is what people are feeling and thinking and seeing in our district. So I really think we have to find the balance of that through this process. The second step in the process, which takes us through November and December, is what we're referring to as identifying patterns, trends, and communicating out. So this is when the leadership team and I will have the full picture of all of the information back, and we will essentially summarize it and have a much deeper conversation about what that data means. We are then going to turn it around, share it with the school committee, and then share it out with the school community. So we will look for different ways and different venues to share our findings with the two towns. So really get them a sense of, look, we asked these questions, and here's what everybody said, and here's what our district reviews from the Department of Education, here's what our student data says, our policies, our budget. Where are we, right? So is everything kind of squaring, or do we have misalignment between what we're hearing, seeing, and what we're actually doing? So I know that this process might feel a little tedious, but I think it's really important to do this right and to be really thorough. because if and when this is done correctly, it doesn't have to be done to this depth often. So the plan is to be very thorough and do this correct. So from there, it takes us into step 3, which is really the planning phase, which will begin in January. So in January, we should be prepared as a leadership team and as, of course, as the governing board, as a school committee, to really start identifying that strategy, those key goals, long-term goals, and then laying out what I'm referring to as a blueprint or an action plan for how we're going to get that work done and what the progress monitoring mechanism is for that, to ensure that we're staying on track with what we say we want to do, and then making the mid-course corrections where we need to. And then from there, with the July start, next July, we will launch the new strategy for district and school improvement and blueprint and strategic plan to go with that. So with all that, why don't I pause and see if there are thoughts or questions on this process?
Anyone have any comments?
I'll just say I'm very excited to see everything that you have in here, and to see and feel it all come all together. I think it'll be all good stuff. I like how you put in here, and because it's something our towns have asked for, and it was done, and but they wanted something a little different. Just the part where you point out, I intend for this to be a 3-year living plan to be reviewed with us. So,
yeah, and I think that part is key because, if nothing ever works 100%, and so as we lay out our plan and we set our goals, we're going to have to make some mid-course corrections when things are not working.
But it gives us a map, and it allows us the opportunity to set those overarching goals, that whole why are we here? Why do we do what we do? To direct this work and then follow through. It lets the superintendent evaluation process work easier. It lets the goal setting. It lets the district improvement plans, the school plans just work the way they're intended to work. So it is, I agree with Erin, it's exciting. It's a lot of work though. Kim?
I just wanted to say that in this plan and this development of the future plan, this year is not, we're still going to move the district forward and continue to do what we need to do to improve student learning, starting today. And this is just going to fine tune things and give us a more concrete plan than we have had in the past as far as learning and teaching. And I think what's important, and this is something I mentioned to Jason earlier, is that his intent is to get information from all the stakeholders, and it's important for people out there, and there are many parents who are concerned about this or that, to kind of reach out to Jason, not be afraid to reach out directly and say, hey, these are the things that I've seen over the years that could use improvement, so that as he talks to teachers, and that's a concern of theirs, you can compile all the information. I think sometimes people have those conversations with the wrong people and nothing gets done. So this is the chance to open Jason's door, have conversations, and get their input into the ongoing plan. So.
Yeah, and I would encourage the same. So if parents or faculty, anybody has questions about what's the direction, how are we going to be working together, where are we going, I would encourage anybody and everybody to reach out and ask those questions. Those are the right questions to be asking. So, and I think, as an educator, there's nothing better than talking to a parent about his or her child. So, they know their child better than anybody, so we always gain a lot of insight from those discussions too. So I certainly would welcome that. And Tammy, I'm really glad you mentioned that, if I may. Yesterday I sent out a welcome back letter, the second letter I sent out over the summer to families, and I was concerned, the same piece you did, about really making sure folks understand that this year we will have some really solid goals to be focusing on. And so I did share in my family letter things that they can expect from myself and my leadership team this upcoming school year, predominantly focused around bringing the communities together around our District of 2,000 strong work, strengthening the what of our job, which is the curriculum, and making sure that we have up-to-date curriculum for students, and materials and resources. And we know that's going to take time, but that's absolutely a main focus. And really looking at the how, which is our instructional practices, and ensuring that our kids are engaged in deep and meaningful work. So to make sure that our parents are at ease with that, I wanted them to understand that we are very focused this year on really firming up that sense of community, the curriculum, and the teaching and learning.
Anyone else? Okay.
So shifting gears, the second item in your packet is in reference to budget items that we would like to restore now that we have a certified budget, and would just like to thank the communities for coming together last Wednesday, I believe it was, and voting to move forward with the school district's budget. So a big thank you again to the residents of Blackstone and Millville for that. And so with that, you have in front of you a list of items that we are looking to restore in the fiscal 19 budget. All but 2 of these were forecasted in the July 9th meeting, being hopeful that we would have the budget certified and in place for our August meeting. And thankfully that is the case. So we have also looked at 2 additional items that, I don't think are less important than the other initial items that were on here. But in fact, now that we have a final number and we know what we're working with, I think it's really important to have this discussion this evening. And so I'll work through each of the items so that everybody has a clear sense on what those are, and would be happy to answer any questions about the rationale behind them. But we are looking to restore 2 elementary teachers at the complex, 1 in 1st grade, 1 in 3rd grade. And again, we have forecasted that prior. We're looking to restore a high school counselor position. And that item actually links to something later on in the superintendent's report, which we can talk about after, but the actual position itself and what it will be, hopefully. We are looking to restore the middle school one-to-one Chromebooks, the STAR assessment, and add the Focus Schools contract. And so those items were on the July 9th agenda. The 2 new items that we have added since, after conversation with the leadership team, of which I fully support and agree with. The first of those 2 items are an elementary school counselor. You may recall that in the spring we had to reduce the adjustment counselors across the 3 elementary schools to 2. Which leaves nobody full-time in our elementary schools to support the social-emotional development and learning of our youth. And so I think the restoration of that 1 adjustment counselor at the elementary level is hugely significant, and will actually allow each of the elementary schools to have a full-time adjustment counselor working with our children and with our teachers. The second item is a curriculum for our English language learners. So our ELL students, of which right now we are serving approximately 80 of those are children that are acquiring the English language, all the way from newcomers where they don't speak any English or understand any English, all the way up to level 5 and 6 kids, which are essentially about to exit the program. We do not have any resources or materials for those teachers to use with those children. So what the teachers have been doing is doing their best, which is what our teachers do, and trying to put together lessons that are focused around reading, writing, listening, and speaking, the domains of how kids acquire a second language, and just essentially put materials and patchwork lessons together with either their own materials and resources that they have or things that they're borrowing from the classroom teacher. And I really want to underscore this. I think the best analogy I can use for really explaining this is if you took a Spanish 1 course or a French 1 course, imagine that with no materials and your teacher's just trying to figure out how to get this language across to you, right? But now imagine that and you're surrounded by that language. So the urgency that the student feels to pick that language up is significant. Our teachers need to be equipped with the resources to do that. So we are asking for $20,000 for our ELL curriculum and resources. With that, it's also a non-negotiable for the Department of Education. We had a district coordinated program review in the spring, and we were cited on that particular item not having and we should have been. We didn't have a curriculum for it. And so we need to get that piece in place. There's definitely urgency, I would argue, around all of these. But the EL curriculum's got to be taken care of for sure. So
I just want everyone to clearly understand, while these are restored recommendations, it doesn't change the bottom line of the budget. The budget that was approved at the district-wide meeting, the 22 million
0.6,
plus,
yeah.
is still the number that we're working with. This is adjusted because perhaps a staff person left early and the rehire was at a lower salary, or just adjustments through the budget is how these items are being funded. It's not, we don't have an additional $300,000.
That's right.
Anybody have any questions?
How far behind are we on getting those Chromebooks into the middle school?
So they have not been ordered, obviously, at this point. However, moving to that one-to-one is not a new process for us. We've done it at the high school. So we certainly are, the team is ready and just essentially waiting for the green light.
So, and he's ready and willing without that extra position too?
Yes.
That we had?
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, there is no additional position with that. It's just the Chromebooks. And so the Chromebooks are really important, in particular for the middle school, because we are going to be using those as a very strong instructional resource and learning tool for kids that we will eventually develop into, we hope, what will become essentially a pathway for children to be able to select our middle school and stay with us and continue through to high school, utilizing that blended learning and personalized learning model. So that's a really key strategy for us.
So since we had a motion on some of these things, should we motion to accept them just to be on the same page? Okay.
Do that.
I will make.
May I just ask a
Yep,
question
you
or
may.
something? So, Jason, I think you talked about the focus school contract, well, focus schools in general previously. Did you talk to this group?
Yes. We've had some initial conversations about it.
Okay. And so can you just kind of summarize for us? I mean, this is just, $100,000 in these three line items between the Chromebook, STAR, and Focus School. And for me, these things kind of blend together in order to strengthen our district. Can you kind of just explain how that's going to work versus, because to me, this is could potentially be two teachers.
Right.
But I also see the benefit of where we're going with this, and I think it's important to kind of explain it to other people who may not understand how we're going to put it all together.
Sure, and actually I really appreciate that question, and I have to say up front that working closely with the leadership team and trying to reprioritize certain items was really difficult. And so what we were looking for with these particular items is something I have noticed right now is that we have what I refer to as a system of schools. We have a system of individual schools that right now have a very unique focus, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but they have a very unique focus and are going in a particular direction that they feel is the best for their school. And that isn't a bad thing. But what we are looking to do is create a school system. And so with that, we need to establish common non-negotiables for how we're going to be improving teaching and learning in every one of our schools. And so working with the Focus Schools team, that is exactly what they will do across our schools. So we will have things like an instructional leadership team in every building. We will have data cycles in every building, looking at student work. We will have planning sessions where that work will help teachers inform where to go next with their lessons, and the teachers will have the support through that work. We will have strategic coaching for our building leadership to ensure that everybody is really focused on being instructional leaders, which means supporting first teachers and students in the classroom with the work that needs to get done to help raise achievement and accelerate achievement across the district. We'll have 3 to 5 instructional practices, so teaching practices, in each building that all teachers commit to, and it's a very ground-up process, but that teachers will essentially drive from the bottom up with their principals and establish a continuity within instruction in each one of our classrooms in our schools. Each school will have an instructional focus statement. So again, that's where the uniqueness comes in. One school may want to focus on math, one school may want to focus on literacy. And so this will impact every classroom in every one of our 5 schools. So when I look at, and you're right, when you look at the $60,000 for focus schools, the impact here will be significant in terms of it impacting every single one of our classrooms. I think the other piece with this was when you really look at STAR. Part of what we are going to be building is an internal accountability system in every one of our schools that will have goals identified at the beginning of the year based on where students are in their achievement and growth and where we want to go by the end of the year. So while we should be looking at real student work, essays and math tests and projects and those types of things, and we also need to have a common measure so we can see that the 3rd graders in both of our elementary schools are performing, at the same rate or not, and if they aren't, why not? I can tell you, having looked at some preliminary data, that it's embargoed, but it's very evident, MCAS data, that our schools are functioning as individual schools within the system and not an actual school system. And so we'll have more on that in October when we can release that data, but you will see it very clearly in front of you. So we really need to start aligning our focus and really ensuring that we have the right structures and systems for teaching and learning in place, which I think is something in my entry into the district in the past 6 weeks I have heard repeatedly that we do not have. That the focus on the instruction needs to be much more deeper and comprehensive than what we've had.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Aaron, you're going to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we are following these recommendations to restore as listed.
The items on the list. Okay. There's a motion by Aaron. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bethany. Is there any discussion? The motion is to approve the superintendent's recommendations to restore the items so listed. No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
I know you and I have talked about this, but we had made a commitment as a school committee to approve budgets by function code. And so if we could perhaps put that on the next agenda so that we can start to move in that direction and see how these things fit into the different function codes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. So shifting gears, our high school advanced placement scores were released. So this evening we have a presentation. Principal Dudek could not be here for this, unfortunately, although he did put it together. And we did a screencast, so we actually had a little video of him talking everybody through the data, but we can't get the volume. Oh, I know. So, unfortunately, you are stuck with my voice again. I was hoping
We
that
were
we
going to
could
make
get...
him a star.
But, I did hear it, and it's a wonderful presentation. So what we're going to do is, I spoke with Jesse, and we will actually put the link in up on the page with the meeting and such. So anybody get home can click on it and see it. So I will just briefly walk through the information that's here. I won't do Mike's presentation justice, so I will just walk through some of the data that we have in front of us, and then it will be right up for public consumption as soon as we're finished with the meeting. And so essentially, the first slide goes through how advanced placement is defined, how the exams are scored, and really the importance of this as it relates to the College Board and college acceptance rates, and as Jack had said earlier today, the benefits of that from a monetary perspective are just, are huge when you're able to essentially exam out of college level courses and get those credits without having to pay for those college credits. So we are going to be working diligently this school year to continue to increase the participation and engagement of BMR High School in the AP program. But with all of that, on slide 3, we have an outline of our goals for last year, which again is to increase participation and also access, equity and access. We have a lot of work to do to diversify the student population that are engaging in our AP courses. So we are very much dedicated to that process. And really encouraging those students that maybe don't feel like they are kind of AP quality or able to take that level of course, but really with the right support and structure, giving them a little nudge and encouragement to participate. The second goal, of course, is around performance. So we are looking to always increase our levels of 3, 4s, and 5s. And just to remind everybody, the AP exams are given at the end of the school year. They're a national exam that any AP student, coast to coast, that takes an AP course takes the exact same exam. So we're actually able to look to see how a student does in BMR High School and compare that to a student in Boston Latin High School to a student in a high school student in Florida. Or you can kind of fill in the blank, but it is a nationally given exam. And so we like to see how we compete, and we have some data in here to share with everybody that really shows where we are compared to the state and also compared to the nation against all the kids that took the AP exams this year. And then, of course, the final goal is to really increase that college success. We know that students that participate successfully and score 3 or higher show a much higher college persistence rate. So participation, performance, and college success really outline the main goals of our AP program. If you look on slide 4, it outlines for you the number of AP students we had last school year, which is 97. Those 97 students took 154 AP exams. And of those exams, we had 54% that had qualifying scores. So it's about half of the exams taken, we had qualifying scores. You'll see a breakdown of the courses right underneath: AP Biology, AP Calc. I won't read them all to you, but physics and chemistry, there's a list here of AP courses that our students had an opportunity to participate in. And with that, we had 20 AP scholars, 11 AP scholars, 4 with honors, and 5 with distinction. On slide 5, there is a breakdown of the actual qualifying scores by grade level. So you can see the 10th graders, 17% of the students had qualifying scores. The 11th graders, 18.9%, and our 12th graders, 22.5%. The graduating class, so over their time in BMR, had a total of 29.2% qualifying scores collectively. I think the next piece of information is probably the most important as we look at kind of where we've been with our AP program, where we are, and where we need to go next. And so on slide 6, you will see a summary of our data from 2014 up to our present 2018, the class that just finished. And so I just want to share a couple of quick highlights here. In 2014, we had 39 AP students. In 2015, we had 62. 2016, we had 90. 2017, we had 113. And last year, we had 96. So we did see a slight decrease in the number of students, but we are a far cry from where we were in 2014 with only 39 kids. From what I understand, the enrollment of BMR High School in 2014 was a bit higher than it is now. So this is a testament to the kids that are at the high school that are really, sticking with it and digging deep to take some rigorous coursework. What you will see on the bottom graph is essentially the outline of how BMR High School has done compared to Massachusetts, and global means the country, and how we did nationwide. And so you will see, if you look at 2018, we had our 60%. We had our 60% of AP students with 3s or higher. At the state level, there was 70%, so we've got some ground to make up. We're behind the state by about 10% with our passing rate. But nationally, we're right on par. Nationally, it's 61%. But we are not settling for that. We know that we can do far better than we've done, and we'll absolutely are committed to doing so. And slide 7 just essentially breaks down the AP numbers. So you will see the courses along the top. and you will see the scores along the side, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, of course 5 being the highest, and the number of students that we had in each one of those categories. And I do want to bring to everyone's attention that our kids that scored 2 on an exam, we had 51. That's a significant number. That means those kids are very, very close to just being over that hurdle. And there is recent research that has really highlighted the fact that kids that are scoring 2 are showing still a very strong college persistence and completion rate. So I don't want to have that number be lost because it is a large number, 51 exams. Or students rather scored a 2 in their exams. So we have a lot of kids that are just on the cusp. So I know the data is really straightforward, and I certainly, Mike, would have done a much better job than I in articulating that. But I don't know if there are any questions on this or next steps.
I have a question.
Please.
The exams that there's only one student that took that, is that an online option, or do we have a teacher that's just, and I don't know if you know this, I'm sorry, Jason, to put
That's
you on the
okay.
spot, but, so student art drawing, it looks like there's one exam. U.S. government.
Yeah, there are a couple
another
where there's
one.
only a couple
I mean,
of...
there's a couple, so I'm just
yeah.
wondering if those are there AP online options, or?
Yes,
Jack's
when
nodding.
I was in school, they offered a lot of AP online, including Psych is one of them as well. Sometimes there will be, like I remember specifically Mr. Slate helped a student that was taking his AP Chem class, but he was taking that online, so he would see him in his free time.
The only one I wouldn't be sure, and maybe it is online, I will find that out for you, but is the studio drawing. I don't know.
I would think someone probably has
Right,
to
you'd have
overview
to-
it, because you have to
you'd have to do
quite
some
a
level
few
of-
portfolio.
right,
Yeah,
right,
it's
you
a
have to do a
big deal.
portfolio.
You can scan them.
So, yeah, I'd have to look into that.
It is. And so I guess my question on looking at the AP numbers per class is what's the next step? So how do we bring those students who are 2s to 3s? Or if you're looking at a particular class and you see that only one person has scored a 3 or above in a particular class, how do we go about kind of bringing that forward? Is that a building level discussion?
Yeah, so that's actually twofold. So the recruitment piece for kids is one piece, and then the support for students and teachers is another. Teaching an AP course is very rigorous. And so the teachers have to do it's a heavy lift for teachers to really be able to prep for that and do what's needed with that. So what we would look at doing first for the recruitment piece is, again, working with our guidance department, working with our teachers, with administration, really start to heavily encourage students to start participating in these courses, having information sessions with their peers, and really getting them to understand that anybody can participate in something like this. SMART is not something you are, it's something you get. It's by effective effort and hard work. So we really want to look at increasing those numbers by encouraging more students to take them. But it's one thing to encourage, it's another thing to support. And so what we need to look at are these Saturday offerings that we are giving our students to make sure that they are prepping not only for the exam, but getting the support and the coursework that they need. Looking at increasing tutorials for these students before school, after school, during the day, in some capacity if needed. Because I very much see your point. We have some courses where all of the students or the bulk of the students are scored a 2 or 1. So there's something wrong there. And so the next level is to really work with the teachers to ensure that they are really utilizing those deep instructional practices, and the kids have the right material and rigorous enough material in front of them. So it's really multifaceted. It's the recruitment piece, it's the student support piece, and the teacher support piece.
And the Saturday offerings do not cover all of these classes, correct?
I don't
Like,
believe
it's
so.
only a
Yeah,
few
I don't believe so.
choice ones that
It
get.
doesn't cover any history classes.
Yeah.
Knew that.
So the question then becomes, what's the alternative for that, right? Because those students still need the same level of support. So we would have to look at how we can offer that support through that.
Actually, when I was in history class, so my AP history class, at least when I took World with Miss Conti, she offered her own Saturday sessions. Yeah. So that's something that they have been developing too. So.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Next, I actually would like to ask Principal Schaefer to join us from Millville Elementary. She's here to share with the committee and the public a little bit about the multi-grade classrooms at Millville Elementary this year, which we are very excited about. I know that this decision came on the heels of some difficult budget decisions, but I really want to underscore the fact that there are communities that intentionally make this decision and that have really studied this, that have implemented it with very strong fidelity and integrity, and have quite frankly, used it as a school choice mechanism to increase, student enrollment, to really tap those families that are interested in doing some different type of learning in terms of the structure itself. So, Principal Schaefer is going to walk us through a little bit about what this is going to look like next year at Millville.
So, for those who don't know,
Yes.
a multi-grade classroom is just basically where there are kids that are in 2 different grades in the same classroom. They might be the same age, but they're grade level apart. So originally the proposal was based on budget, and it was kindergarten, grade 1, grade 1, 2, grade 2, grade 3, grade 3, 4, 4, and 5. We went to go visit Ashland. So myself, Mr. Tringali, Mrs. Olbreeze, and Mrs. Dubois, we went to go visit Ashland because we found out that Ashland does do a multi-grade classroom. They actually called theirs the neighborhood school, and their model is 3, 4, 5 all in one classroom. So students from grades 3, grades 4, and grade 5 are in the same classroom with the same homeroom teacher for 3 years. They also have 6 or 7 grade 3, 6 or 7 grade 4, and 6 or 7 grade 5 single graded classrooms. So they have the option, and actually the neighborhood classroom is a lottery. So in order to get in there, parents have to go to a presentation, they have to commit to 3 years, and they have to enter this lottery. And sometimes they upset parents because they don't get in, but it's a very wanted thing. So we came to try to turn it into a more positive thing for us and to fit our needs better. So we took out the grade 1-2 model because we felt that kindergarten and first graders are basically kindergartners ending their year, and they have so many skills to learn as far as, their reading, their phonics, their math skills. They're still building their foundation for their house of education. So we felt that it was important to get that out, and we made a 2-3 mix. So, and then we did a 3-4 and a 4 and a 5. So the reason we made the change was to be able to do the 2, 3, 3, 4, and 4 classes, and they'll be able to flexibly group amongst them. So right now the class sizes, I know they were proposed as one number, but this is actually where we're at as of today. We have 27 kindergarten students because we're down to 1 section. We have 2 sections of first grade, which are up to 20 and 20. We have 1 second of second grade, which is 24. We have 1 of 2-3, which is 22. Now we have 2 of 3-4 because this kindergarten class is now went to the 3-4, so now we have 2 3-4. Our intention is, the teachers, when we had met, we talked about doing it for 2 years, because what Ashland does, and I'll explain that in a second, is they kind of split. Instead of teachers teaching 2nd and 3rd or 3rd and 4th grade content at the same time, they rotate it. So that's what we decided to do, because that made the staff really nervous, is to have to worry about teaching 2 social studies and science curriculums at the same time. So we kind of looked at it that way, and after talking with Ashland, it really fit our needs better. Grade 4 right now is 21, and then grade 5 is 28. Now, obviously, enrollment is fluid based on people withdrawing, adding in. We have had some people take out applications. So we're hoping that this model will turn into a positive thing. It wasn't viewed so much as that at the beginning, and we're trying to turn it into a positive because, honestly, when I left Ashland, I loved the idea. I would love if we had a school of 3, 4, 5 to be able to do that with a couple. They only have a small portion, and I just thought it was so fascinating. And the relationships that teachers can develop with the kids is amazing. So one of the things, I just compared the single graded versus multi-graded. Actually, I do want to add, I have been talking with the principal from Ashland. I went to the principal's conference the end of July, and we actually ended up tying up there, and then we talked on the phone when we got back, and we've kind of been emailing. So we're looking at hopefully setting up, if we can work it out with because it obviously is a lot to ask the parents from Ashland to come to us, but we're hoping that we can work it out. The parents that have gone through their neighborhood classroom to come in and talk to our parents to help them ease their fears and everything going on. Because I know that's anything new or any change requires a lot of anxiety for people, adults, kids, everybody. So having people that have gone through it, we're hoping to get some staff. Ashland's been doing it for 19 or 20 years right now. Theirs was started based on a study from a professor, doctoral professor from Chicago. And they came in and did a study for 2 years in Ashland. And they decided that this was a good fit for them, and they've been doing it for that long. So one of the teachers that we met with when we went had been teaching in that program for 18 years. Wow. And she said she would not go back to a single grade classroom. She loves it. Another teacher had been teaching it 4 years, same comment from her. They were so willing to help us in any way they could help us that we're hoping that even maybe some of them can come talk to the parents as well. So obviously teachers' work days are long, so we're hoping they can come, and parents obviously all have lots on their plate. So we're hoping we can get some people here to come talk to our community and let them see the positive that they felt from it. So when you have a single graded classroom, you have a new teacher every year. Multi-graded classroom, you have the same teacher hopefully for multiple years. So we had asked Dr. DeFalco for a year hope on this, so that way our kiddos now, for the 2-3, those kiddos in 2 will have this teacher for 3rd grade as well. As someone that had taught, when you have the same kids 2 years in a row, you know them well, and you know you can hit the ground running. And I had gone from 2nd grade, when I taught 2nd grade, to 5th grade. Even though it'd been a couple years, I still knew some of them and their personalities and their learning styles, so it helped me start even better. Now having them 2 years in a row, what a great thing for the teachers, that they can go in and they can say, okay, yep, you left here, I know this is how you learn, this is what will help for you, maybe there's behaviors that they know how to deal with, and they can deal with that. So that's kind of a positive of that. Self-contained classrooms still have, the syllabus is all the same, the lunch and recess is the same, all their core subjects are the same. And they still have special education and ELL supports, just like a multi-graded classroom. They do in the multi-graded classroom right now. Our plan is they will all have specials together by homeroom. And their reading will be together. And lunch and recess, so for the 2-3, we're going to still do our K-2 lunch and recess and our 3-5 lunch and recess. So they'll still stay with their age-appropriate peers. But for our specials, they'll all be the same. For reading, even in a regular single graded classroom, you have kids reading all over the place, so you still need to meet those needs. So we figured that would be easy enough for the teachers to handle. You still teach making inferences, you still teach main ideas and details, you still teach determining importance. You just read it in different books, and you find it in different books. So we figured that wouldn't be as difficult. Math was the area that was a huge concern to us, as well as science and social studies. So what we found after speaking with Ashland, they actually have classrooms they switch for math. So for math, they may have, if a child is doing really well in, say, the 2nd grade curriculum in geometry, they can, possibly do some 3rd grade curriculum. If they're doing well in all the curriculum and blowing through it, then they can try out some more challenging stuff. There's where you can get your 4s on your report cards, because those kids are doing above and beyond what they're supposed to be doing. Having taught last year, kids in my class were blowing through division. I ended up teaching them division with decimals, but I had to do that while I was not teaching the other kids and could find time to work with them in a small group. So now you can have the chance to challenge these kids in a much more natural environment, and giving them more of that than just the hit pieces here and there where you can get it. And for science and social studies, our plan right now, we just have to finalize now that we have this 5th classroom part of this, but our intention is to teach for the 2-3. For example, will be to teach the grade 2, the grade 2 students the 3rd grade curriculum, because the 3rd graders have already had the 2nd grade curriculum, and then next year they'll learn the 2nd grade curriculum. So by the time they leave 3rd grade, they'll have 2nd and 3rd. It just might be in a different order, and that's how Ashland does it. They do theirs in a different order, so they'll teach maybe 3rd grade curriculum, and the 5th graders may be learning 3rd grade social studies in 5th grade. But by the time they leave 5th grade, they have had 3rd, 4th, and 5th. It just may be in a different order than their peers, their grade level peers, but will all be taught to them by the time they leave. So one big thing that we're doing is I started reaching out to some people, and just checking to make sure their intention is to not leave before next year if they're in a multi-grade classroom. I have to finish those calls, but so that way we can say if those kids aren't going to be there, we can make sure they get the curriculum they need. So if they leave to Bellingham, Uxbridge, wherever, if they're moving, then we can make sure that when they leave and go to that new school, that they have that curriculum. So that's one thing that we found important. And for science, they've also talked about nationally that they had done like 1 year, they did life science for 3rd all the way through 5th grade. And then they did, earth science all the way across. So that was another way they had done science. So that was something else that we had talked about. So I think right now we're going to focus on doing grade level though and meet them that way. And then the curriculum's still the same. Still going to be doing Envisions, still going to be doing Empowering Writers, still going to be doing Readers Workshop, exactly the same, except for the difference is the flexible grouping is embedded into the multi-grade classrooms. So they will be flipping around for math and helping them get their flexible grouping in. Specials still remain the same. And that's it. So does anybody have any questions for me? And if some of you came to my parent, we had two parent sessions. One was on Friday, August 3rd at 8:30 in the morning or something like that, or 8 o'clock. And the other one was on Monday, August 6th. We had about 60 families between both sessions. So, and that's not just kids, that's families with some that have multiple kids in the school, so.
So I have a question, but it doesn't have to do with the blended classrooms. It's actually about the kindergarten at your school. Can you just talk about the support in that? Because you have one section, and I know a parent had come to me and was very concerned, so if you could just speak to that.
Absolutely. So Dr. DeFalco and I last week had talked on the phone about our number, and one thing I did propose as a suggestion to help the teacher, we have appointed a teacher that was with us last year, so I'm very excited that she's back. And she has 20-something years of experience, but we have actually moved the paraprofessionals, so they'll be there to cover them all day instead of just the 4.5-hour chunk they were there. We have 8:45 to 1:15 for one of the paraprofessionals, and then the other one will be from, I'm trying to think of the time in my head, 10:45 to 3:15, so that way the teacher will have support all day long, and the paras can take their breaks while the other one's there, so that way the teacher's never left alone with those kids. Simple as putting winter boots on is a lot of work for kindergartners, and going to the bathroom the first week of school is a whole heck of a lot of work. So the teacher will always have regular ed support in the room, and in addition to the special ed paraprofessionals and or the special education teacher helping support those kiddos as well. So the teacher will have support, which would be very nice, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it because sometimes even just taking your backpack off in the morning for a kindergartner is very overwhelming, so having someone help you and put your backpack on at the end of the day and know where to line up for the bus. So they'll have someone there right now to support them all day long. Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Anyone else? You look like you got a question ready.
I'm just processing.
I have an elementary school question. Another parent reached out and just asked, when will the students know, like at the complex, when will the students know who their teachers are?
So our intention is tomorrow. Yeah. The email we're going to be sending out, our administrative assistants are going to work on sending out emails tomorrow, so that way the kids will know. So I did mention that to the parents at Millville, that our goal is by this Friday. So we had to actually shuffle our classrooms around because we added an extra section. So Monday morning, actually several staff came in and helped out, which I thought was awesome on their own time. And they helped us reshuffle all of the class lists. So
we built all of the lists with the anticipation of having those positions restored, but we had to hold until
the budget, right?
Yeah, so exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And so now everything's ready to roll, and our team's been hard at work, so they'll go out.
Yes, exactly. And it's obviously new to us all, so it's going to be a learning curve. And I do say Dr. DeFalco has given us, he has offered to give our staff time, and they have taken it upon it to figure out how they're going to assess the kids to figure out the groupings. So they will be getting some money. They'll be getting paid to come in for a few hours as per the contract. and they will be able to, figure out how they're going to assess the kids, how they're going to move them around, who's going to be teaching what. Those little intricacies that normally they'd have to do on their own time, he's been very supportive in helping us get that time together. So the teachers every single one of the teachers, obviously we're hiring one right now, but hopefully we'll have that person in place and maybe they can join next week. But they're going to be meeting next week to start on Friday and just start looking at everything. So.
Great.
Oh, and one other thing is our classes, I know that was a huge concern. The multi-graded classrooms, people were very concerned that it was going to be like ability-based, but it's not. It is all heterogeneous and personality-based. So we said, okay, Bobby can't be with Susie because they fight all the time, so we made sure they weren't in the same classroom. So that was something that our teachers, that's why I found it awesome that our staff members were able to come in, whether they were in person or one was actually on a conference call with us, and they were saying, oh, no, that kid can't be with that kid, and that's one thing we looked at. So it's not ability-based because we can flexibly group within that model. So. Yes.
Can I go back to the data piece? Do we currently have access to the data, the STAR data points that those kids that are involved in this conversation had last year?
So unless
Or did that get
if
lost?
they didn't print it, then no, because when we cut that piece out of the budget, that was the end of our contract. So I have not, I have a call set up with them, I think it's next week, to try to get that.
Because that's a great data point.
They might have
Every-
it from, they probably have it from
So
last
as
year.
I know in Millville, we usually hand it in at the end of the year.
Yeah,
So
a hard copy.
I just have to find it right now, but I'm trying to get the scheduling and all that.
I
That
know
was my
that
mind's
we
been in getting
had
this
by
squared away.
class, but not by kid, so
Yep,
we
have
could
it
do
by
big
kid.
picture, but not little
that's right,
picture.
yeah.
So we pull out different reports. And then we also have the Fountas and Pinnell levels to help as well. So they've left the school year with that assessment, and we handed that in as well.
I'm always concerned, in my experience with STAR, we'll use that data point, one data point of STAR to make decisions, based on what, is the kid gonna have intervention next year or whatever. But if we do in fact have 3 data points and then we retest now, then that would be more fabulous than that one moment in time, which the kid could be sleepy.
And we have the preliminary,
happen.
we have the
right.
preliminary MCAS data by student,
Right.
Fountas and Pinnell data, and we have the STAR data if it's printed. So if you have it, then it's, so it sounds like we might have the data
I
points
have
we need to
just
build the
look for-
groupings.
I know, like, for example, I know I handed it in, I don't even know what mine is. So, but I know I handed it in, so that's one thing that that has been asked for us to hand it in at the end of the year by a certain date. So I think it was like June 7th, we have to submit it, so.
The communication to parents about teachers, it's coming from you, or is it coming from the classroom teacher, like, welcome to my classroom?
It's gonna be coming from either Mrs. O'Neill or I.
Okay.
So we'll be
And is
sending,
that, so for Blackstone too, the teachers,
First thing in the morning, and then follow up later in the day with a one call. Just saying, if you did not get an email today, please contact the office.
Oh, and they will.
and the other thing, so for parents that are watching, one thing we were concerned about is obviously it's going to take us some time to email them out. So if you see your kid getting a placement and you don't have one yet, but you might be in older grade, don't panic. They're coming. So that's the big thing, is we're concerned about people are going to worry and say, oh, my kid's in this class, but they're in like kindergarten. So obviously we're going to go through the list, but don't panic if you don't have your list, because Mrs. O'Neill or I have to enter all of the kids, by the homerooms. So.
Any other questions?
I just want to say, I went to the August 3rd presentation, and it was, any parent that was there, all their questions were answered, and I think you did a wonderful job in setting, the stage for what is to come. I left there understanding it a lot more, and I'm very excited, so thank you
I'm
for
hoping
your
there'll be something
hard
that,
work.
over time will entice people to come to us instead of run away because they hear, oh my gosh, a multi-grade classroom, and the unknown was scary. So I know a lot of people, I can tell you right now, I've talked to principals in other districts, and people that work in other districts have told me school choice applications went out like crazy, but I'm hoping that the night, and one of the parents actually was one of the people, and she's like, oh, I feel much better now. So she was like withdrawn. So I think that once people see what our wonderful staff can do in Millville, that I think that they'll be much more at ease, so.
And if I could just add one piece of this, I think this is a timely point to bring this up. And so in your packets, you have the complex enrollment data by grade level and the number of sections, and you have Millville Elementary enrollment data, number of sections at each grade level as well. And so, I think this is as close as we've been able to get the numbers in terms of equity. You'll see that there's a higher kindergarten enrollment at Millville than the complex, but you'll see that the complex has a higher second grade enrollment than at Millville. With the regional agreement we have, this is the best we can do with what we have. So until we are really ready to, looking forward, sit down and have a very candid conversation about that, we certainly have worked very strategically to try to build these so there's as much equity and everybody has what they need as possible. But I think that is going to need another look at some point.
When we first looked at these prior to adding this new class, we were looking at 27, 28, and 29 in second through 4.
Yeah.
So just adding that one little class just tweaked it just enough so that the numbers were much more friendly.
But to point out, you're moving, I'm sorry, you're moving
A kindergarten.
a teacher from another room into that. So next year, we
may not be able to
may
do
need
that.
those two kindergartens. So
Yeah.
it's something that might be very fluid with that, with the class sizes for.
Exactly. That's a really good point. And I think that was my point. I mentioned the regional agreement piece. At some point, that's got to get another look. Because we're going to continue to find ourselves in this particular seat.
And I do think, given previous discussions, we really need to keep an eye on the 4th grade in the complex that's at 29 students in a class, and the 5th grade, I know there's only one at Millville, but 28 students in a class.
And kindergarten's
We have
right
some-
behind. So.
We have some people, but kindergarten has support. I realize it's not ideal, but at least it's there. The 5th grade and the 4th grade at MES doesn't have that. I realize 4th graders don't need the support that kindergarten. I realize they can tie their shoes. I get they can do all those things, but we have tried to focus resources on teachers in classrooms so that we can have reduced numbers. And while the shift and adjust has worked for some classes, I think it's important that we particularly track those higher level ones.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
That 5th grade in Millville has been a single class all the way through.
Yeah.
It's
I had them last year.
they've always had one section. So.
Thank you go ahead.
I just want to say, to Jason's point with the regional agreement, I think every time we do try to open it up, we focus on how much money we can save. And I think that being able to shift students, again, I mean, I've said this a million times in this position, it's not always about the dollars. Being able to just shift a 4th grader or some 4th graders to the Millville, or kind of even out that 29 and 21 would be fantastic. And especially in 4th grade, where you only have another year, it reduces the conversation about what happens next year, what happens when Johnny's siblings come in, and there's a lot of those conversations. But I just want to point out, if we do open a subcommittee, it's not about the money. It's about equity of learning and the ability to use our limited resources as wisely as possible. And so it's not always about dollar signs, it's about kids' education. And I think going into opening, if we do in fact open the regional agreement, it has to be that focus and not just, are we going to save $1 by doing this? Increasing education is priceless, as the commercial says. So that's all I have on that.
I think we briefly talked about it at another meeting. A starting point to that would be to try to amend the regional agreement that we can have school choice within district, that people could choose to send their kid to Blackstone or to Millville. Because if you can open that piece up and people can make the choice to send their child to one or the other, you might get some people who take you up on that, who want the shift. And then from there, you can get more supporters on the bandwagon.
I think that it would be helpful if we had this conversation not only amongst ourselves, but with both boards of selectmen and anybody in the towns who would be able to help us get this done, because we know we're going to need support everywhere for this to happen. And I think it'd be great if we could have it on the agenda for our joint meeting on the 26th.
We can.
Who owns that meeting?
Is that our agenda for that?
Do
our
we own
agenda.
that
It's
meeting?
our meeting.
We own that meeting?
Yes, we do. It's our agenda.
So then I just make that request.
All right. Wrote it down.
So noted.
I'm sure you did as well.
Yes, I
Anyone else? Mrs. Schaefer, thank you very much.
Thank you.
A lot of hard work by the
Yeah,
team
yeah.
there at Millville.
And appreciated that
Very much.
people are willing to look outside the box on occasion.
So the next item brings me great pleasure, the next two actually. But as you know, we have been on the search since the last school committee meeting with your approval of a new modified position, taking the business manager and really reorganizing the business manager role into an assistant superintendent of schools that will have a very heavy focus on finance and operations. We have been on the search for the next assistant superintendent to really fulfill the needs and responsibilities of the business manager role, but also to be able to link every dollar, every resource to eventually what we will create as our strategic plan and really have a sense of accountability for where our resources are going in terms of the teaching and learning agenda in the district. And so on July 9th, I came before you with a modified job description that really outlined the responsibilities of not only a business manager, but really a business manager that has the lens of an educator and really the heart of a teacher that understands the work of the quote unquote the back office, kind of the business office, and how to keep things running so that teachers and children have the best that we can provide to them, and that the operations of the district regarding facilities, transportation, et cetera, do not hinder or get in the way of that work. And so we had a what I would consider a very thorough and lengthy process. We posted the day after the committee approved the job description, again, which was just the business manager current role kind of reorganized. And we had 22 applicants that applied for the position. And I had an opportunity to do quite a bit of screening in terms of all the paper screening, looking at credentials compared to the job description that was put forward. And with that, we were able to screen in, of those 22, 3 candidates that we felt really met the qualifications of what we were looking for. Those individuals were interviewed by a panel that consisted of Sarah, representing the school committee. It was chaired by Principal Dudek from the high school, our middle school principal, and we had Ms. Wolford, the Unit C president. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get a Unit A leadership at the table because of some other responsibilities and things that were going on at that time, which we certainly understood. And so with that, we went through the interview process and had a unanimous decision from the panel to put forward Mr. Aaronworth, who is here with us this evening. Mr. Aaronworth had quite a bit of time to be able to sit with me and talk a lot about the fiscal challenges, and all the budgetary issues, all of the facilities projects that we have facing us currently, and where we need to go next with a long-range plan with that. I think one of the strengths, I'm going to have Mr. Aaronworth speak in a couple of minutes, but I think one of the strengths that Mr. Aaronworth really brings to this position, he has been a high school biology teacher, a dean of students, an assistant principal, a principal, and a director of facilities, finance, and operations for the past 5 years. So we knew that the pool for this would be very, very small. It was a very, very tall order. But, I think we were very lucky to find somebody that really fit that criteria and is able to really understand the world of finance and operations through the lens of teachers and students. So before you this evening, I'm asking for approval of the contract, a 3-year contract for Mr. Aaronworth for the Assistant Superintendent of Schools.
I will entertain that motion.
So moved.
Moved by Jack.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion?
I just agree with Dr. DeFalco. He has a background in education, obviously, but as a teacher, administrator, and he's from the Wachusett Regional School District too, so he has the regional school experience. And I just look forward to working with them.
Anyone else? Hearing nothing else, all those in favor of approving the contract for Mr. Aaronworth, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Welcome.
Mr. Aaronworth, would you like to say a few words?
Certainly.
He can come and,
Or do you want to sit?
this is your chair
This is your
now.
seat now, so
Sorry. Come on up. Moving on up.
I do, yes.
I don't know the rest of the song. It's the only words I know.
We do.
So, first and foremost, thank you all. It really is a pleasure to be here. I am, as Dr. DeFalco mentioned, I have had a fairly extensive career in education. This is my 21st year, and I am thrilled to be joining the BMR team. After speaking with Dr. DeFalco, I really feel that there are excellent things that are going to be happening for the teaching, the learning, and the culture in this district, and I'm really happy to be a part of that work. What wasn't mentioned is I've also sat on this side of the table before in the capacity of a school committee member on the Wachusett Regional School District. So thank you all for your service.
Great. Thanks so much, Mr. Aaronworth.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome, and
I'll go back to the audience.
no, no, no.
Thought I was getting off easy.
No, yeah, no. But really, we do welcome you, and we look forward to the partnership, because it really is a partnership to make all this work, so.
Thank you.
So, and just to point out, your first day in our district will be September 4th, September 5th? September 4th.
I have a feeling I'm
have
going to
you
be
been?
breaking out my calculator later this evening with Jason, but
little meeting in the back earlier.
officially September
September
4th.
4th. Great.
We'll be laying out a transition plan. And so Mr. Aaronworth will be with us a couple of days next week, a couple of days the following week, and then full-time after.
And you've got all those committee meetings that we mentioned earlier.
Yep,
Just checking.
in the minutes.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
The next item, I'm going to be asking the school committee for approval for the one-year interim special education director appointment for Ms. Jill Pilla-Gallerani, who has been with the district for over 20 years, serving as a special education educator and team chair, out-of-district coordinator. And so as we continue to really build the team for this year, we are very pleased that Ms. Pilla-Gallerani has applied for, successfully interviewed for, and I think will be an amazing addition to the team to help advance the work forward with our special education students, our ELLs, and quite honestly, teaching and learning in general, which is clearly a passion of hers. So I'm asking the school committee to approve the one-year letter of appointment for Ms. Pilla-Gallerani for the interim director of special education.
I'll entertain that motion.
So moved.
Moved by Bethany, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jack. Is there any discussion?
So, she's currently a member of Unit A,
Yes.
and so she's going to switch to Unit B during the interim year position.
That's correct.
And then, if it works out, she stays in Unit B. Do we need to approve anything as far as her getting out of Unit A and steps and those kind of things?
So
Is it like a moratorium or?
yeah, so I think the two pieces to your first question. So this position is a one-year interim. We're going to be redesigning this role into a 12-month non-union position.
Okay.
And so for this year, it will be a transition from Unit A to Unit B. But once the position is restructured and approved by the committee, it will be a 12-month non-union position. So that's the first part to your question. As far as approval from one unit to the next, I did have a conversation with the president of the Unit B Association, which is 2 members. So spoke to one of them, who is half. Yeah, that's right, half, who oversees that. unit, and he, shared that it would not be an issue on their end. And in fact, the way the appointment letter is written is that, she would be making the transition from A to B, and then at the end of the term, she would move back to Unit A.
But does she need to take a sabbatical from A
No.
in case she goes back? Because are we going to hire
We're going to hire
an interim for her position? So if it doesn't work, I'm as a union member,
Yep.
I don't want her to lose any, I just worried, I'm wondering how the step thing works.
Sure.
Or years in, how does that?
Yep, that's a really good question. So she will not lose any of her Unit A rights when she transitions back.
If she were to transition back.
And so the Unit A position will be filled with an interim team chair.
Okay,
So the individual coming into that seat, of which Ms. PG would fill, with my approval, obviously, but that individual will be an interim.
okay.
And with the newly designed position, it's going to be something that's posted. I feel like you keep saying it like, if it doesn't work out, it is something she would have to apply for and progress with
Yes, that is
a
correct.
group of
Once the new position
once the new
is
position
is designed.
designed.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, and she has agreed to help out and step into this role for this year, which we're very much thankful for and excited about. And when the design of the new position is out and approved, any candidate is encouraged to apply for that, and there will be a fair and open process like we've done for everything.
Okay.
Yep.
And so the interim who's going to be at the high school in the vacant spot,
Yes.
is that person going to have the same responsibilities that, I hope you don't mind if I just call you Jill, but I'm going to kill your name, so Jill's spot. So will that person just be the high school team chair? Okay,
Yep.
that's what I was trying to
And,
remember what we called
that
it.
individual will know that it is a 1-year interim position.
And that's going to be posted internally?
Yes.
Okay.
And Mrs. I can't say
See, that's why I didn't want to do it.
Ronnie is continuing as the out-of-district coordinator. So the new interim won't
Is
have
gonna
that
take that-
piece. No, won't have that piece. She's continuing to do it.
Yep.
Right, oh, right, the new interim old position. Yes, I saw that. Thank you. Okay. My questions are answered.
Any other discussion, other questions? Okay, the motion on the table is to approve a 1-year interim Director of Special Education position for Mrs. PG. Can we do that? Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention.
No, me too.
Oh, two? Okay, 2 abstentions. Okay.
And I have the appointment letter and a place.
And
for
welcome.
signatures here.
Well,
Ms. PG, would you like to say a couple
re-welcome.
words?
Well, welcome again.
Would you like to come up and say a few words?
I guess I'll just say that when I was approached to consider this position, I couldn't say no. Someone said to me, well, you could bring a level of familiarity with the district, the support that's needed during kind of a transition. And again, the reason I couldn't say no was in my life, I went through a very difficult transition. And after that, coming back to this district provided me with that support and that familiarity. So now I can give back to this district what it gave to me after my difficult situation in my life. So I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your license and all the other things you had to do to get to this point.
A lot of hard
So
work.
we thank you.
Thanks, Ms.
Thank you.
PG. Looking forward to the partnership. Okay, we're going to segue into essentially 2 different job descriptions that I'm going to be asking the school committee to approve. And I will explain very clearly each one so everybody has a good sense on this. The first is for a speech language pathologist assistant, also known as a SLPA. You may have heard that term kind of floating around. What we have found in some of our research, and currently I should say, we have used an SLPA for about 10 to 12 hours a week to serve a student, so it's not a significant amount of time. but it is IEP driven and is what a particular student of our, in BMR needs, so it's what we provide. However, we have gone to an outside vendor for that. We don't currently have this job description on file with the district. And so we have paid our outside vendor a significant amount of money, far more than what it would cost us, tens of thousands more than what it would cost us to essentially design a position, post, and hire our own. So we are doing a little more research on that, whether or not it would behoove the district to actually post and hire our own. Right now, all indicators are saying yes, and that we could do so at a significant savings, about $20,000. And so what we are asking the committee to do is approve the job description for an SLPA, speech language pathologist assistant, with the thought that we may eventually, depending upon what other information we can find on our existing contract, want to post for this and just hire it internally, saving what we think will be a significant amount of money. So not quite a heavy lift, but one I think that would really benefit us from a fiscal perspective.
I'll entertain a motion to approve a speech language pathologist assistant job description.
So moved.
Second.
Is that you?
Yeah.
Moved by Bethany, seconded by Tammy. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving a speech language pathologist assistant job description, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
And the second aligns with the budget item from earlier this evening regarding the high school counselor position. What we are looking to do is essentially reorganize a position, counselor functions at the high school level in particular tend to be one of two ways: either a guidance counselor that works on scheduling and coursework, or some of the college preparation work, career preparation work, or an adjustment counselor that's focused on the kind of social emotional development of the child. So what we are looking to do is actually marry the two. And so we are looking for what we are referring to as a school counselor that in fact has both license areas, training in both areas, and will be able to integrate together the social emotional learning and the development of our adolescents with the actual coursework at the high school level, what's needed to be college and career ready, and study skills, all the kind of technical pieces of being a student. But we want to focus the emphasis of that role on our freshmen. So we know that all the research has been very clear that if you successfully complete, students that successfully complete their freshman year academically have a much higher graduation rate. And of course, we know with that, kids are much more college and career workforce ready. And so what we'd like to do is make sure that at the inception of our high school, we have a point person that is going to be coordinating the efforts, coursework, social emotional development, and supports for our freshmen each year that are really targeted on that. And so what we are asking the committee to do this evening is to approve the high school counselor position. That is a new position because it does require the dual certification or licensure as a guidance and an adjustment counselor. So we really can have that marriage of those two positions and really help our freshmen.
So I have a question on the qualifications. It says that the dual certification is preferred, but if in fact
yes, it is
it's
required. That will be changed. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the.
I think Tammy had a question.
Just one question. I'm sorry. And I asked this earlier, but oh, sorry.
It's an action item, so we need to have a.
God, tell me what it says.
We need to have a motion on the floor, and then we can ask questions and have discussion.
So moved. So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right. Okay.
Ask away.
Ask away.
Now I just have a question. I know the focus of this person will be on freshmen, and I understand the reasoning behind that. Can this person in the role of the adjustment counselor also provide sort of that side of, social emotional learning lessons during our, what do we call, support period to all students? Is that something that would be considered, or is it just really the focus on freshmen?
No, so the emphasis is on freshmen, but we would never turn a student away that's in need of additional support. And we also are going to be looking to have this individual help work in creating this social emotional learning kind of framework that we will start at the high school but build down across the middle and the elementary schools. So I mean, the person's, this individual will really be the gatekeeper for that, if you will. But to answer your question, absolutely. I mean, kids first. If there is a student that's in need or a group of students that's in need and they're not freshmen, we will support our kids when they need to.
I do know they do have some social emotional learning standards floating out there, and so I just hope that this person becomes very familiar with them.
Yeah, so we are plugged into the SEL, Social Emotional Learning Network, and we were very excited about that at the state level, working with the Rennie Center, which is a policy research group out of Boston, and BMR is on the move with that work. We got our letter saying that we were accepted into that program last Friday. So yes, so we will absolutely be able to plug into those standards and build them into our
Rennie, R-E-N-Y?
R-E-N-N-I-E. Rennie Center.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion?
They're located next to Fenway if you want to take a field trip up into Boston. I can show you where they are and we can catch a game.
That'll be a high priority.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the school counselor position with the change to required dual certification, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
And then just a couple of important dates. Our first District of One event, which we are really, really excited about. Wednesday, August 22nd, meeting at 6 p.m. at the Millville Bike Path parking lot, of which I learned there are about 10 spaces to park. So we are working on parking and figuring out how that's going to go.
Sarah's going to shuttle in her van.
I live across the street, so there's plenty of, there's actually a lot of side street parking in the area.
We can park at Terrace if we need to.
Yeah. Come on in. Maybe I'll even sell some waters out front.
There you go. So we're really excited to have the community together to kick off the school year. And so certainly welcome everyone to that. Our staff start opening day is August 28th. Freshman orientation, August 24th. The open door day at the high school is August 23rd. And our student start date, of which I sent out a little tweet to all those students following me the other day that they have.
There lots?
Yeah, well, I get over 100 and something, yeah. So I said in 2 weeks, the yellow limousines are going to be hitting the streets and you'll be hitting the halls. So let's get ready. So August 29th, our students return. So soak up the last few days of summer.
Wait until you start getting the snow day requests.
Uh-oh, yeah.
So how do you feel about snow days?
It'll be fast and furious, yeah. And that concludes my report.
Well, except I assume you're doing the business office.
I am doing the business office, but that concludes the superintendent.
There you go.
report. Right, so I am the business office until September 4th.
Until September 4th.
So just a couple of quick facility updates. The high school fire system, the RFP is with our legal counsel. And so as soon as he responds to make sure that is good and set, we will be posting that. And the Millville Elementary School fire panel has been ordered. Unfortunately, it is on back order. However, we have been assured by the Millville building inspector that the school will open on time. He does not have an issue with that, that the current fire system is fine and is safe to use. However, the panel installation is going to take about 4 days. And so we are hopeful that it will be in sometime in September. And what we are looking to do tentatively is the Friday before the October Columbus Day weekend is a professional development day. So we would move the Millville faculty to a different building and we would install it then and have the 4 days to do so. The reason that's important is because we need to shut the system down, and I do not want anybody in the building, student, staff, or anyone without the fire system functioning. So we would move them to another building for the PD day with that until it's installed. So I keep everyone posted on that, but we are safe and ready to open without it. And that concludes the business report.
Okay. School committee forum, Sarah.
Oh, come to the fun run. Have a good time.
Or
There's ice
bicycle, or
cream.
walk, or
Helmets
whatever,
too,
right?
Blaine.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'm gonna be jogging.
Bike helmets.
so.
You're gonna jog?
Right. Your friendly school resource officers will be there.
Yep, the school and I heard there might be bike helmets. If kids need bike helmets,
Oh.
they should come down to get them.
There you go.
Thank you to everybody who came out to our town meeting. It was hot, and we appreciated it. I know, and the people who stuck it out through all that heat. That's it for me.
Nothing on this end.
I'm excited for a new school year. I hope that the staff is excited and ready to go. I'm excited for new positions, and I just wish everyone a great school year.
I just want to say thank you to the people who came out to support students in our district as a whole, and I look forward to next year, next school year.
Nothing extra to add.
I just want to thank Dr. DeFalco for stepping out into band camp today. He already mentioned it, but it was a hot day and the kids were working hard. They have been all week. Monday they were drenched from the rain. Today they were drenched from sweat. So one extreme to the other. They still have 3 days to go, and it's pretty exciting for them. Same thing with fall sports. I believe football starts tomorrow. I believe a lot of tryouts. Volleyball is next Wednesday. Soccer tryouts start next Wednesday. So good luck to all the kids that are putting the effort in there. And I'll just echo on the town meeting. Thank you for everyone's support and letting us move forward with our budget. That's all I have.
And I would, on behalf of the committee, like to thank Mr. Daniel Doyle, who was our speaker that evening for the town meeting. He did that for us at no charge, but he did it very well. I thought that he ran an excellent meeting, gave everybody who wanted to speak the opportunity to speak. I'd like to thank the town clerks. They put a lot of work into that process, and as we all know, they and their counters, it was a very toasty evening, and so I appreciate their effort to come together and meet with us. And Jesse and Tim, I'd like to thank them for their efforts, because they again spent a lot more than just a few hours that night making sure that people could see that video. It was up almost immediately after the meeting was over. So they do a great job for us. And I think although there were a lot of people to thank, Matt, the custodian at the high school building, spent the entire day at the school setting up for us, putting out all the tables. And again, as you know, it was a toasty day and evening, and his 2 young girls had to spend the evening with him, and they were great sports. So I thank them for doing that, and I think all the people who came out. 600 people on a hot August night is pretty impressive for a town community of one district. So I thank people for doing that. I am hopeful that we will never have to do it again. So that's your job. Our next meeting is September 5th, Wednesday night, so it's a different change. It's not our usual Thursday. September 5th, Wednesday, and it's at 6 p.m. here. And I'm hopeful we'll have our student members join us at that time, so we have to get them. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Aaron, seconded by Bethany. All those in favor say aye.
No executive
Opposed?
session.
What?
We don't need it, okay.